One. What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in once again to Unofficial Therapy Podcast. This is Chris Kane. I'm here with the incomparable Sloan. What's up, girl?
Wow, comparable.
Listen, you didn't.
Intro.
I had to just give it up. These intros are getting more and more involved because I really can't compare anybody to you. It felt right in the moment, so I just went for it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, Sloan, we've known each other for what, a few years now, something like that.
Yeah, few
Off and
years. Yeah.
on, something like that. And you've always had really awesome energy. I'm not like the energy guy because I know that's like a stereotype. Yeah, I just really
Charge,
feel your
do you charge,
vibes right now.
do you charge crystals?
I don't. I don't.
I'm kidding.
Everyone does in LA. I'm not a charge guy, but I do pick up on people's energies and people's vibes, and some people you don't want to be around because
Mhm.
they got that cloud, that Eeyore kind of effect, and they come over. And then some people you see them, it's like, oh, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And you're one of the fun people. So I said, we got to get you on the pod to talk your shit, let people know kind of how you give it up. So give us a little, if you had to describe yourself in like a sentence or two, how would you do
Oh
that?
God.
Oh yeah.
I would say I am the most relentlessly persistent woman in anything that I say I'm gonna do. I would also say that I am unapologetically Sloan in every aspect of my life.
There you go.
Those
I
are
feel
two phrases that I feel like I most equate to.
I was gonna say but that alone backs up what I said on the front end of this podcast. Because people heard that and said, okay, you're like, I'm gonna be me no matter what room I'm in.
No matter what room I'm in, no matter who I'm around, no matter whose feelings get hurt, no matter what. Because at the end of the day, I got to go to sleep with myself.
See, you dropping bars right now. I'm gonna give you some snaps early on in the pod, finger snaps, and that's one of the reasons I wanted you to be on today because I think we're in a time where identity is kind of getting mixed and mastered with what social media is, what income level is, what the outside people are saying, and a lot of people that aren't grounded well enough in themselves. And because you've always been who you are since I met you, I've always thought, okay, that's someone who I know is self-assured. I know you have, doubts and fears like every other person, but your identity never seemed to change or waffle even when things may be going on around you. So can you maybe give some advice or speak to the
Yeah,
masses?
I mean, I teach a lot of kids dance from ages like anywhere from 5 to like 20.
Mm,
And I tell them even when they're young, and I'm like, this is like, it is a true testament. I'm like, you can't get lost in the sauce. And I'm
mm,
like, dumb and like cliche and as like basic as that sounds, I'm like, it's so true because like if you think about like symbolically like whatever the sauce is at the time, whenever people are buying into and whenever society makes you think you have to look like, be like, or social media makes you feel like you have to, it's like this. I always talk about how it's this unrealistic expectation of instant gratification.
yep.
And like people, they are like, oh, I just want to be like so and so. I just want to be like so and so. I want to do this so I can get closer to whatever this goal is. And I'm like,
Yep.
that's already been filled, homie. Like that spot is taken. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm all about teaching kids and any of my friends whenever they're feeling like pressure from anything. I'm like, there is, as again, like these cliche phrases that you get raised on. I'm like, you're raised on these things for a reason.
Yeah.
Like you're taught these things young and they just become more meaningful. The phrase stays the same, but those things start to be more weighted in whatever it is that you're battling. So like, don't get lost in the sauce. I'm like, the spot's already, there's no other you. Like all those dumb ass phrases that you hear and like, you know what I'm saying? They're
Yeah.
so dumb, but I'm like, truly, I'm like, there is no other Sloan. There will never be another Sloan. Like, why would I want to be somebody else? Why would like in social
True.
media? I'm like, somebody is like, oh, this is pretty right now, or this is what pretty looks like right now, or this is cool right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, that shit is right now. That's all that is just right now. And time is gonna do what time does, and time is gonna keep moving.
That's true.
Like fucking Tamagotchis are coming back.
Oh, I
Do you
remember
know
those things. Yeah.
exact see? They and like if you'd ask somebody a year ago, if you would ask somebody a year ago, like they'd be like, those things are so fucking whack. And then now you're like, oh, now it's cool because society said it's cool. But
That's
like
really,
that's how I live my life.
yeah.
I live my life like that. I'm like, I don't care if you think this shit's cool. Call me in a few years. I'm already ahead of it.
Are you saying
Because
you're Sloan 3000? Is that what you're trying to say?
I live Sloan 3000 every day. How can I be Sloan 3000? I love that.
I know. They see, listen, I'm here. We're here right now. You know what's funny is that I'm not a fashion person. People who know me
Yeah.
know that. I don't care. I shop at Ross or I wear my own merchandise, which I'm wearing right now, sexy comedy tees. And I realize about fashion, a lot of stuff is like tacky until X person wears it. And then people think that's the thing. Like, remember when rompers became a thing where
Yeah.
you saw a bunch of just giant dudes? Like, oh, yeah, I'm just wearing a one piece. I'm like, what's happening? What's happening right now? And it
Or
was
like
just hot.
that's fine, but like I wish you'd found it on your own. Like everything is cool if you feel like I can sell sand on the beach.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's how I navigate my choices and like what I wear and how I like, my boyfriend is the most simple man. Like he has got, I think he's got like three pairs of pants, two pairs of shoes, like a row of t-shirts, and like they're all black. And sometimes I get dressed and he's like, babe, what is that? Like, and I'm like, oh, you're either going with me in this or you're going by yourself or I'm going somewhere else, but I'm leaving the house in this outfit, you know? And he's like, oh my God. And I'm like, I feel so good. And like, even this sweater, he's like, what are you, where's Waldo? Whatever. And I'm like,
That sweater's dope for the record. That's one of the first things I said. I like the sweater. So
and
you
even if
could,
you're like, fucking sweater is hideous, I'd be like, that's great. I'm happy
yeah.
for you. I'm happy you carry that.
It's like you bringing that sweater to the pod. He's like, this is how I live. Take it or leave it. Like, all right, you can keep it on. I'll
Yeah.
take
But
it.
I think that's like, that's what my like, I always think about like what my legacy is going to be. I think about it all the time. Like, what's my legacy going to be? And not in terms of like, I think about like death or like, I don't think about those things on a really like gory level. I just like every day when I'm like, okay, I could have been better here. I should have been a better aunt, sister,
Yeah.
dog owner, partner, friend, whatever it is. And then I'm like, what's my legacy going to be? And not in terms of like career success, but
Mm,
what are my friends going to remember about me? What's my niece gonna what does my niece think when she's like, oh, my aunt?
mm,
Like what do those people think? And I actually talked to Reagan about this, which is so crazy. I was like, what do you think people say about you? And somebody's like, oh, do you know Reagan? And somebody's like, oh yeah, Reagan, she's blank,
right.
blank, and blank. What do you think those things are? And then she's like, Sloan, what do you think people say? I'm like, I think people say Sloan is funny, Sloan is kind, and Sloan is honest. And I'm like,
Yeah.
because honest is like a double-edged sword. Like some people really don't want it.
A lot of
Some
people
people,
don't.
some people really hate the truth and they really struggle with the truth. And I'm like, I can't be around people like that. I need to be around people that are like, you fucked up, you hurt my feelings, I didn't like this. I need that in my life because it keeps me in check. I'm like, okay, I need to figure shit out.
Yeah.
But it's important for people to ask themselves what people say about themselves or people say about them when they're not around. Like, what do you think people like Chris? What do you think people say about you? They
I
had
already
described
know. I already know.
go.
Actually, there's two parts to this. I'll tell you what I think people say, and I'll tell you what they have said. So we did this experiment at Equinox before we closed down last year, and we did like a team building exercise where you wrote every trainer's name like on a piece of paper and taped it to the wall, and you got to go around and write one adjective to describe the trainer.
I
All
love
right.
that.
This is unfortunate for our new trainers because they had only been there for like a week. So it's like new. So it's like newbie. What's your last name again? Yeah.
Stranger.
Question mark. So we did that at first, and I wasn't worried at all because I'm like a darker male version of you in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm good. I don't whatever. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. I looked at it and it was a lot of the same things: genuine, funny, good listener, empathetic. Um, Somebody wrote sexy, but I think it was a dude's handwriting. I knew who it was. I was like, I know who that is. I was hoping I would get like more of those, but I only got one. I was like, come on, guys! Like I've been working out. Like
Oh, I'm hot.
I just got done doing squats. Y'all don't see what I'm doing. It's only got one sexy. I was like, damn. Um, but it was like charming, fun to be around. There was no negative.
Oh, I love charming.
Charming's a good one. I feel good about that.
Oh, that's a good one.
I feel good about that. So, but those were in line with how I feel about who I am, because
Yeah.
I'm the honest friend in my group of friends, but my honesty is righteous. I'm only going
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you because I think it's going to be beneficial to one, to you, two, to our
Yeah.
dynamic. Because if I see something or if I think something and I don't say it to appease your feelings or to like not be rude, and then things go sideways, I feel partially responsible because I could have
Yeah.
maybe intervened with just my opinion or whatever. So I'll
I
say
did job as a friend. Like that's what a real friend is. And
that's
you
what a
know,
real
like I
friend.
job as a fucking friend. If I watched the ship go down and I knew there was a hole in it,
Yeah.
no,
I got to at least throw a donut out in the water. And then whether you get in it or not is, hey,
that's up to you.
I threw it out there. It's like, man, I drowned. You didn't have to. There's a flotation thing right in front of you.
I'm not gonna swim your ass back, but I gave you a flotation device.
I did that. So, what I've always aimed to be, because I actually have a podcast episode called Legacy. Guys, check it out. It's in the back catalog. Uh, where we're talking about this very thing. And my legacy, part of what it is to break past trends in the family.
Yeah.
Because, like, my
Oh,
family, because half my family is from the islands. My dad's from Trinidad and Tobago, and his whole side of the family is. So, they're all foreign people. Then my other side is my mom's side, who's from Florida. And there is some good and bad on both sides, but there's
mm-hmm.
definitely some things. There's been some, glass ceilings that maybe been self-induced. Maybe when they came here from the islands, there was maybe the world put a glass ceiling on them. I never thought I had one. Even as a kid, even being poor, even being on like food stamps and all that good stuff, I never thought this is where it's going to stop.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, like it wasn't told to me by any higher person. This is like an internal compass. Like I'm gonna break out of this and then like try to pull everybody out of it. So like
Cool.
that's why I'm in LA now,
Yeah.
because the opportunity is limitless. Yes, you're competing with the best of the best. Yes, the cost of living is unreasonable. But if you do what you're supposed to do and you make it happen the way it's supposed to happen, your ceiling is wherever you want it to be. is
Yeah.
the is whatever that is. And that's what it takes to bring people with you. And
Yeah.
so that's a driving force for what I'm doing.
Yeah. I love that. I love all that. I think like for what I know of you, that all resonates as true. But like for me, I always talk about too. It's like, I think when I think about those things, my mom used to tell when I was a kid, little baby Sloan, I can't lie. Like I can't, I am incapable of lying. Like if there's a surprise party of some kind, I'm like, please don't tell me until I have to know, because I get nervous. I was like, what are you doing later? I'm like, nothing. Oh my God, nothing. Like I can't lie. It's my whole life. And this like one story is like really short, but one time my mom and her friend ate at the house when I was
Mm.
little. And then I went upstairs. My mom's like, "Hey, Sloan, will you do the dishes?" And I looked down the stairs. I was like, no. And then I kept walking upstairs. My mom's friend comes over and she's like, "Sloan, did you hear what your mom said? She told you to do the dishes." I said, "Why would I do those dishes?"
How old were you?
And she's Susan. And Susan was, I mean, I was probably like 13.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like 6. I'm like, okay.
Like, why would I do those dishes? And she's like, "Because your mom asked you to." I was like, "But those aren't my dishes.
Mm.
I did all my dishes." I was like, "I don't need to clean up after you guys." And my mom literally goes, "Susan, if Sloan says she's not going to do it, there's no way she's going to do it." She's like, "I don't care how much we want to punish her, how much you want to yell at her." She's like, "Because she's explained why she's not going to." And my mom's like, "And she's not wrong." She's like, "Sloan ate and picked up after herself. We should pick up after ourselves. She's making us do what she did." And I was like, yeah. And my mom's friend was like, oh my God. She's like, I would have spanked my kids for talking back. My mom's like, she's not necessarily talking back. She's explaining herself. And I've given her the space to explain herself. But if Sloan says she's not going to do it, she's not going to do it. And I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah. And my sister feels the same way. Like my sister's much more of like a pushover than I am. Like she's a lot more like easily moved by her surroundings
Sure.
than I am. And you can put me anywhere and I'm going to do the same shit. So, but my mom was always I was always that way. If I said I was going to do it, I was going to fucking do it. If I said I wasn't going to do it, there's no way that that I'm doing something, I'm like, no.
Wash your dishes, Susan.
Yeah. What the fuck? Want to clean up after you, messy ass?
I listen. I commend your mom for giving you that runway to express yourself. I unfortunately did not have such a runway. If I say anything remotely resembling that, it will be construed as talking back, which is disrespectful and Southern Black
Yeah.
culture and all that stuff. There's one time I told this story before, but not to you, so this is gonna be fun. This was me talking back. There's no reason to do this. I was playing this game. It's probably like an old Nintendo. This is how long ago.
Yeah.
I was maybe 6 or 7. Getting down. It was Sunday morning for church, right? And my mom was like, "Hey, go get ready for church." And I said, "Mom, I'm trying to finish this level. Let me finish this first, and then I'll go." Now, my clothes were already laid out. It only takes me. I'm a 6-year-old kid. I had waves. My hair was already low. I already showered and brushed my teeth. Just had to put the clothes on and walk out. But no one else is ready. So I'm like, if we all go and get ready at the same time, I'll be the first one out because I have the least amount of stuff to do. My older brothers, like, they're trying to get all sexy, and my sisters got bows and stuff. I'm just putting this. I'm going.
Yeah.
And I was like, Mom, I gotta play this level. She's like, put the game down. I was like, 1 more minute, like that. And I don't know how far she was when we started talking, but
You heard
as
her.
soon as no, I didn't hear anything. I felt my shoulder get grabbed, and then I got snatched. Like you ever see like those movies where like someone opens the hatch of an airplane and then you get snatched out? I got airplane hatched. And the controller got snatched out. I was like, I flew back. I think I hit the couch, and I was like, and she was like, "Go to the room," and I was like, "Okay, bye."
Okay. Yeah.
And that was it for the talk back.
I was like, I think I was just, my sister and my mom were raised like a mom and daughter. So like there was an ultimate level of respect between the two of them. And not that I didn't respect my mom, but we were just more friends.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was raised very much like my mom. She was very like free thinking and way more experimental with the way that I was raised, which is like very much shown up in how my sister and I are, as she's 14 years older than me, but like we like still very much like in our differences, like we love each other so much, but I'm like, she says some things sometimes, I'm like, are you crazy? Like she'll even like tell me like, you shouldn't walk your dog off a leash. Like it's disrespectful that I'm like, why don't you worry about yourself? I'll worry about myself. Cause if not, like this isn't going to end well. It's like, okay, fine. But
I can hear the tone of your voice. Worry about yours. And then I do mine.
I worry about myself.
Yeah. That's a little sass, and that yourself lasted for like 3 more beats than it should have. And that's all the sass being. What about yours now?
Yeah.
And then me.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
I was like, what's going on? I appreciate it.
When I was in high school, this is actually pretty funny. I was really good in math and science. And because I like that there's a right or wrong, right? I love that, we all are trying to get to the same answer. How do we get there? Mm-hmm. And so one time I was doing really, like, I set the curve in my math class. I wasn't in like AP classes, but because I was like, I didn't have time. So I just did regular classes, but I did really well. And so I finished my homework in class and we had a sub in the room, and I went over, I was listening to my friend's iPod at the time, and I walk over, I drop it off, finish my homework. I just walk over, drop it off. And we had a sub, and she was like, I need you to stay in your seat. And I was like, okay. And I was like walking back. I was like, okay. And I like sit down, and she's like, what were you doing over there? I'm like, I was just dropping off his iPod. She's like, I need you to work on your homework. I said, well, it's done. And anyway, this kind of escalated. This like back and forth kept going on. And then she's like, I said, stay in your seat. And then I picked up my chair on my butt and I start parading around the class. And
So
I'm
that's
like,
attention.
yeah, now
Right.
I've crossed over. She's pushed me too far. I'm like this. And then she comes over and she puts her finger like in my face and she's like, stay,
Oh
and
wow.
like real close. And I was like, hold on 1 second. And I go in my bag and I get out my gum and I give her a piece of gum and I'm like, here's a piece of gum. Your breath fucking stinks.
Oh wow.
Hmm. Then
Wow.
I Yep. Yes, this is true.
Wow.
Then I leave my class, call my mom, and I'm like, this is exactly what happened. This is how I reacted. I'm gonna get detention. You're gonna
Yeah.
get a phone. I was like, you're gonna get a phone call. I'm like, she shouldn't have put her hand that close to my face. I'm like, I shouldn't have done these things. And she was like, thank you for telling me the whole story. She's like, I'll see you at home. And I get home, my mom's like, you know, there for every cause there is an effect. And so you want to handle yourself that way, you're gonna have to handle and navigate your detention yourself. She's like, the school's gonna punish you enough for your actions. She's like, well, you know, like gave me great mom advice. I go to school the next day, my principal's like, Sloan, did you say here's a piece of gum, your breath fucking stinks? I was like, yes, ma'am, I did. I said it.
Yeah, that was me.
uh, yeah.
I approve this message. That was me.
It's all true. She's like, I have to give you detention. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. But it was like my childhood. Like I would call my mom and just be like, this happened. And she's like, thank you for telling me the truth. You're gonna get what you deserve. I was like, okay, thank you.
Listen, I appreciate your level of defiance to the law and to rules and all this kind of stuff. I think I was so afraid
Uh
to like I went to detention I think 2 times, and one was for laughing too much in class because I was being giggly. I was in AP classes,
yeah.
and yeah. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. Everybody knows this. People who know me growing up know I'm a nerd. And so we were in probably AP, I think, lit or lang, and I'm a writer by trade. That's why jokes come from, right? So I can write easily and can write well, but my brain just works a little differently. And we were supposed to break down a book that we had read. I read, maybe it was like The Scarlet Letter or something to that effect. And I took it, and my brain was going to a way different place than I should be going. And it was funny to me because of how the story was playing out. And so as I'm writing, I'm laughing because I'm visualizing this as a movie,
Yeah.
and I couldn't stop it from laughing because it kept getting more and more absurd. It was just kind of like it got a little ridiculous. I won't go into all the details of it, but my teacher was like, "Hey, stop laughing. Other students are trying to write. You're breaking their concentration." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, guys." And like, just doing all those little, like, just being stupid because I
Yeah.
was like, if they knew, and I got an A on the paper actually, but if they could see what I was writing and they could see what I was thinking, they would have been laughing too. But
They laugh. Yeah.
they couldn't get the vibes. And it said if you laugh
I
again, they couldn't get the vibes. And they said if you laugh again, you're gonna go to detention. And when I got to the end of the story, the climax of the story, basically, it was so ridiculous that I busted out, and then like I started crying when I started laughing, and this is the whole thing, and I got detention, and I
Yeah.
tried to explain it.
Because you were so imaginative and creative and funny. So
Yeah, but it's like still I was disrupted. I was disruptive to class. That was like it doesn't matter.
do you see how we just viewed that same story?
Yeah, you're like
I
I
was
see where you're
you
at.
were, you were doing the right thing. And you're like, no.
It's just only because again, like I was always a nerd growing up. My
Yeah.
my all my siblings are smart. My parents are smart, but they just weren't. They didn't apply it to school as much as I did.
Okay.
So they were smart, but they were like school was kind of a whatever. I saw
Mhm.
school as a way out, and so I treated school like it was like I want straight A's. I was a perfectionist. I want honor roll. I want to be dean's list, all that good stuff. And so I treated it like it was a job. And I know, I'm a black kid from the South. I'm like, I know maybe like the way society was when I was 15, 16, 17 to where it is now is a little different. But at the time, it's like for me to get where I need to get to, I got to excel past whatever the norm is. I got to be
Yeah.
great while being black. I can't be average while being black because then it's going to be leaving behind. So I'm like, I can't drop this because I knew if I want to go to college, my parents aren't going to be able to pay for it. I know
Yeah.
that they don't have it. It's just going to be whatever. So I had to work enough to get a scholarship, which I eventually did. But at the time, I'm 15, 16, I'm like, if I get detention, if I get written up, if this is on my permanent
Yeah.
record, if my SATs are bad, then it's like, hey, mom and dad, can y'all, get 10,000 a year? To like, dude, we only make 30,000 a year. We can't spend a
Yeah.
third of our money on you. So I got to do this for me and ultimately to not burden them. That's
Yeah.
outside.
I understand.
You just don't agree.
No, I just do it.
Like I hear you, but like, all right, fill me on this one now. Weren't you just being expressive?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's me.
Mhm. So let's get to what you do. So I met you as a dancer, which is mostly that's not all of what you do, but that's a big part of what you do. So
Yeah.
can you talk to us about? I'm saying us, like the people who are listening. Talk to us about your what drew you to dance and what kind of maintains you there. I know a lot of people start it and then they just kind of get off of it like it was a phase, but obviously this is like a lifestyle for you.
Yeah. Well, I started when I was 3.
Oh wow.
So I just turned 32. So it's a long time. Carry the one. Um, Started when I was 3. My mom was actually my first dance teacher. So dance has like been in my family. So my mom, she was like she just was a dancer when she was younger, not professionally, but she danced and then like just went into teaching. And then
Mm.
when my sister was younger, my sister with same thing, mom put her in the studio. And then my sister actually went on to become a Phoenix Suns dancer.
Oh.
Back when it was like way more dance and less cheerleading. So it used to be
Mm.
like they were like really, really great back then. Like they were bringing awesome choreographers.
Yeah.
So sister was a dancer, and then came me, and I started when I was 3, and my mom kind of put me in the studio because like that's what she did, and it was like free childcare.
Okay.
Like
Gotta get
that.
that.
They're like she can be here for free. It's like she's active, she has other friends outside of school, whatever. And
Right.
I tell people I was really bad, like I was a bad dancer, and I just loved it. I loved it so much, and then I was like really, I was just athletic. So like I had a ton of energy all the time as a kid. And when I was like 14, it was like the first time that I was like, I like this a lot. Like I could do this.
Yeah.
My parents were like, no, you love to argue, be a lawyer,
You
whatever.
should
And
too. You can be a
yeah,
dancing lawyer.
I would, I would have been an amazing one. Um, but I just kind of was like, no, I want to do this. And I tell people that when I said that, it was like kind of brushed to the side. Like they didn't really take me seriously. Not that they didn't support me, but they were just like, this will pass.
Right.
Right. Um, and I think because like it's a hard lifestyle. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think they wanted, because I was the smarter one between me and my sister in terms of school and like grades and academics, I think my parents were like, we need to have a kid that utilizes that because,
Yeah.
the rest of the family's just like dancing. And like my dad was like a mailman. So like they're like, no, you can do it. You'll be the one.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, but what if I just dance?
It's like I heard you saying that, but here, all right, now just go with me here. What if I
But
don't do any of that?
what if I do exactly what you do? What if I do that? I don't think I'm really good at it all.
Yeah.
So then I kept doing it. And my parents were also super poor. Like both my parents were really poor, and then they got divorced. And my mom was like real, real, real poor. So when I lived with my mom, I was really hard for dance because dance is very expensive.
Yeah.
Um, because there's like not only is there like in all sports there's like games and they buy a uniform. Dance you buy like 7 uniforms per weekend.
Oh wow.
It's like costumes, but they're like those are hundreds of dollars, and then you
Oh.
pay per dance that you do. You pay to enter each dance, and then you have your monthly dance fees, and then it's a very expensive activity to be a part of. So when I turned 16, I was like, I still want to do this. And my mom, like my family cried. They were like, no, like, no. And I was like, I can do it. Like, I can do it. And they set a really like unrealistic list of goals that I had to achieve by the time I was 18. And they were like, you need to win you need to win a national title at some convention. You need to win Dancer of the Weekend at a few conventions. You need to get your own agent. They're like, we don't want to help you do nothing. And I was like, all right. And I love that kind of challenge when people are being like, yeah, well, good luck. I'm like, watch me.
The challenge accepted.
Yeah. I was like, great homework, things to boxes to check. I love a list. Um, so then I spent the next 2 years just really trying to make that happen. I was really blessed. There was a family at the studio that I went to that they were really well off and they wanted to sponsor a dancer. And my studio director was like, you need to sponsor Sloan. Like she'll thrive. And they came up to me and they're like, what conventions do you want to do? And I was like, all of them. Like anything you'll help me do, anything you will pay for me to do, I'll go to. And so I did. And I spent my junior and senior year just working my fucking ass off. And my parents made me be in a sport in school that I could let her in. So I was doing track and cross country
Awesome.
and during the week, and then on the weekends going to do dance conventions and then doing it all over again. And then my senior year, I added I added pom. So then I got like 3 letters at the same time that I was doing, 16 hours of dance a week on top of school, whatever.
It's a crazy schedule.
Yeah, it was a lot. I was like waking up early and running my practices for track and cross countries. So I was doing my workouts alone in the morning and then going to school, then going to dance, then doing my homework, then doing it all again at like 5 a.m. But I mean, it kept me out of so much trouble.
Oh yeah.
Kept me out of so much trouble. Like my friends would get in so much trouble. And I'm like, I was too busy dancing.
You want some weed? I have a meet tomorrow. So
Yeah.
nah.
And so I can't really. But I did all the things they asked me to do. So my senior year, I crushed it. My senior year, I was like, this is my last chance. And that year, like every convention I went to, I got Dancer of the Weekend, every single one. And then I'm not like a technical dancer, so it's really hard to get like first place because I don't do like tricks. I'm like a performer. And like I started winning like first place at competitions, and then I won a national title when I was 17. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's 15 years too late, but you know what? The applause is still the same.
Okay. Wow, you're so good. But that's kind of like where it started. And then I just started soaring. I got into a really good school in New Jersey after I graduated at private school because my sister lived in New Jersey. So I wanted to be close to one. So I got into a private school and I was like, I don't know what I want to go to school for, but I'll try to do both. And so I got to school and I was like traveling. I was doing classes early and then taking a train in New York and then dancing in New York, auditioning in New York. And I was like not getting the jobs I wanted to get after like a few months. And then I went to my agent. I'm like, what is going on? Like, no offense. I'm like, but I'm dancing circles around some of these people that are getting these jobs. Like talent wise, like I'm there. And she's like, oh, you're short and you're edgy. And because I already had views at the time, like, I mean, obviously not like I do now, but I had a few. And they kind of were like, oh, you're too short. And I was like really discouraged because I was like, those are things that I can't help. If you gave me work on, like I'll work on it, but I can't grow. Like I was like, and I'm like, I have tattoos, like they're not gonna disappear. And like my vision for myself is to have 2 sleeves. Like since I was young, I was like, that's not gonna happen. So one day I was in English and I looked around the room and like people were like really into what was going on. And I was like, I can like remember like what I was wearing, where I was in the room, and I kind of like took it all in. I'm like, I'm so good at something else. Like there's something I'm so good at, and that Like this is what they want. I don't want this.
Right.
So I walked to my counselor and I was like, I'm withdrawing from the university.
Nice.
And I took myself out of school. I no, didn't talk to anybody, took myself out of school. Called my parents and they were like, what the fuck? They're like, what are you gonna do? Right. Cause I'd gotten in on a grant. So I like it was all good. Like, I wasn't coming out of their pocket. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'll take care of all the things I need to do for the grant. Like, I'll call, handle all that. And they're like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to just train. I was like, I'm going to go to, instead of going to English in the morning, I'm going to get my butt to the city and I'm going to take 5 classes. I'm going to just dance. That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
Did. And then after like a few months in New York, I was like, you know what? It's not going to come to me. I got to go to it. So then I moved to LA.
That's where you met
And
me. Yay! See?
and everyone in LA, like as I was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna live in LA. My family was like, you, you can't just walk away when things don't work out. That was like their driving message to me was like, it didn't work out for you in the East Coast, so you're just walking away, you're giving up. And I'm like, no, like I'm going where people are short. I'm going where people are edgy. Like I'm gonna plant myself in a place where I'm gonna succeed.
Right.
And then within 6 weeks, I had booked Lady Gaga. And
I love Lady Gaga for the record. Love her.
gang. That's the homie.
Love
And
Gaga.
she, like, I had boxes in my living room. It was only my second audition. There was 400 girls. They wanted 4. And like, I literally was like, I just moved here. I'm where I'm supposed to be. And since then, I've just had an awesome career with mainly her, but like a lot of other artists, and traveled the world. I've done 4 world tours. And yeah, I mean, we were supposed to be on another one last year. So
Yeah.
there's that. But I feel, I'm 32, but I've seen the world. And like, I feel like it just makes me want to see it even more. Like, I think once you see some of the things that I've seen, like my heart is like, all I want to do is like RV around Iceland, like these are, like, I have big dreams of doing really
Iceland's
crazy.
beautiful.
Oh, I just want to be there for so long. But I've recently gotten more into the teaching side of things because I finally feel ready to lead. And I think it's a lot of experience until you're ready to lead. And unfortunately, in my industry, people just jump into it because if they don't make it as a dancer, they try to make it as a teacher.
Right.
But there's a lot of money in teaching dance if you're good at it. I just started to feel ready. And now I teach on a big convention. I teach like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids on the weekends. And I'm so happy and like fulfilled. And it's taken me a long time to get here. So like when things like that happen, I'm like, I fucking deserve it.
Let me ask you something. This is,
Yeah.
I was thinking this earlier. After you started getting success, right? There was some resistance from the parents, from your support group about you just walking away and being kind of fickle and flaky. Then you got success. Did you ever feel the need to be petty and be like, oh, I guess I'm walking to another stage with Gaga because y'all say I just walk away? Or was it just like, I'm just going to keep shining and they'll come around eventually?
I don't talk to my dad. So my dad and I, like, we severed ties, like probably like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. He was a huge alcoholic, like my whole life. Played a really big part in like a lot of like relationships that I like got involved with, and like shitty things like that. And he was like never on my side about it, didn't understand it. It was like always like, what are you gonna do, dance, you know? And it was never petty for me with him. What pissed me off is that when I did get success in any way, and like I still feel like obviously like I don't feel like successful. There's always new goals. So like for me to be like, when I reach success, like I don't really think you ever like reach it. But when I started to have some sort of like proof that like I was on the right path and I was happy doing what I love to do, I started to feel like a trophy to him. And he's
Oh,
like, oh, what are you on? He's like, oh, me and my friends watched you last night at the bar.
oh,
And I'm like,
supporting you.
yeah, I'm like, oh, you're showing now I'm just like, Like him and I don't have a relationship at all. So to your friends, you're just like, you know, I wish you would call me to see how I was doing and how I felt after. But instead, you just call to be like, what channel are you on? And I'm like, oh, how convenient that my success, now you get to boast about it when you had nothing to do with it. But I don't think I ever felt petty. I think my pride, like how proud I was of myself,
Mhm.
took over the pettiness. I didn't have room for it. I was so filled with like pride for myself.
Gratitude, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I'm sure I can see for sure how that can happen. Like that's a very understandable feeling to be like, yeah, well, you don't want me to be here. Watch me, you know,
Yeah.
you didn't believe in me. I'm like, oh, it's sad that you didn't believe in me, but I don't have time to give you that.
Like everybody else does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an interesting because like I'm asking that because one, that's kind of like Gaga's story in A Star Is Born. Her dad was kind of like that actually.
Yeah.
And I know that's not where we were going with that, but it just kind of hit me. But I haven't had the resistance, I don't think, in my journey as you have, because I finished school, I guess. So they're like, all right, well, at least he did that. But my degree is in marketing and interpersonal communication, which I'm obviously not. I mean, I market myself, but so does
Yeah.
anyone who has a skill. So do you need to go to school to do, anyone who's like, hey, I have a product, you got to market the product. How do you sell it? So I guess it's not really like as applicable in that regard. But when I moved out here, there was a lot of we don't have any. I don't have any family in California.
Yeah.
So just like, why are you moving to California? There's nobody there. All my family's in Florida. I have a couple people in Tennessee, but they're mostly in Florida. And I was like, why you leaving us behind to do what? To like to be on TV, to be a star, and that kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, but they don't get the vision because they don't have the
Yeah.
foresight. And like you planning yourself here to achieve your thing, I was doing well in Miami, but it wasn't. I was capped. I feel like I
Yeah.
was being capped, and I said, "Well, I can't stay here capped, even though that would be nice for everyone else. I'd rather struggle in LA than be comfortable in Miami." And
Yeah.
it's just now, like I've had a couple little things where like I did like a game show or something. I've been extra in a couple little things. They've seen me around, like, "Yo, did I
Mhm.
see you with so and so?" And it's like, yeah, but it's not anything that can be like, "Yo, I'm on a billboard." We're not at that level yet,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's been little victories, and it's like, hey, we told everyone that you met, Snoop Dogg, and it's like, yeah, yeah, he's cool, and it's like, oh man, tell us, and it's like they want those like campsite stories, but
Yeah.
that never happens if you don't leave to come out here, and so
Exactly.
I don't think I'm going to be petty when things really pop off. Really, I think I'll just be more actualized.
Yeah.
That's the idea. I'm not as successful in what I'm doing as you are and what you're doing, so I don't know yet, but my belief is that when I get there, it'll be like when you were 3 and 4 years old, thinking you didn't have a ceiling to what you could become, and now you're blowing past expectations. That's just really fulfilling your own destiny more than it is to all the naysayers.
Yeah. And I also feel like I'm so like head in the game about like when I'm on set, like I'm like I'm unaffected by like who it's for, what scale it's on. Like I just do the best I can.
Mhm.
I think you froze. Did you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I just do the best I can. Okay. I just do the best I can, no matter where I'm at, no matter who it's for. And that's my job. Like
Right.
I happen to be really passionate about it and love it so much, but like that's my job. And I'm really good at my job. And people when they're like, "What's it like?" Whatever, and then like I'm like, "Oh, it's really good." And then I'm like, how are you at your job?" Do you know what I'm saying? And like
Yeah.
it's pretty simple for me. There's not like I'm not like chasing the fame. I'm not like chasing like it's like I feel weird when I name drop. Like I'm like because to me it's like I danced. I danced there and then I danced there and then I danced there and
Yeah.
I just did my best at all of those things. And then I just did so well there that it brought me another really great opportunity that happened to be still dancing. But it's really a job. And so it really frustrates me when people aren't good at their jobs.
Oh yeah.
People don't,
Yeah.
it like frustrates me because I mean, Ryan hears me say all the time, like, I'm so good at my job. I work so hard at my job. I don't care what your job is. I don't care. I don't care what your job is. I feel everybody is so equal in my brain and in like the way that I operate. And like, as long as you do your job to the best of your ability with the most integrity and like, that's all I care about.
Right.
Like I was at the airport the other day and this fucking sweet angel girl, she was like at the register and there was like this massive line of people and she was by herself and she was just going. And then like I got to her, she's like, "Hi, how are you?" And she like had a smile. I'm like, "Ma'am, you are so good at your job."
Yeah.
And she literally was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." I'm like, "I have seen you smile at everyone in the line." I'm like, "And I don't know if anybody's going to tell you today." I'm like, "You are so good at your job. We appreciate the speed in which you're working.
Yeah.
Thank you so much." She literally started tearing up and she's like, "Thank you so much." Like, I'm like, "Yeah, I can't do your job."
She wants
I'm
the
like, "No, I don't know what
appreciation.
to do." But I think like that's it for me. It's like head in the game and I think that's why Gaga liked me. Like in the beginning, she'd been so bullied by girls and had a really hard time bringing girls onto set for Bad Romance. It was like all girls. And it was her first time doing a video with just females in the room. And like, I didn't care where, like, she would come on and I was just like going over my moves. And then she came up to me, she's like, "I like you." And I was like, "Thanks."
It's like I like me too.
And then I just like got back to work. And then there was like another time when she came in the room and like it had been a while since we saw her and I was just like working through something else and it was right after that movie, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Great movie with Rooney Mara. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like just sitting on the couch and like everyone that was new had like run to her and was like, fame struck. They're like, "Ah." I'm like, whatever.
What they want to do that again? What they do?
Yeah. Just like a bunch of yes men, like
Sure.
just being like, "Oh, you're beautiful, you're perfect, you're great, you're all these things." And I was like on my phone and she's like, "Look at Sloan over there, not giving a fuck that I'm in this room." And I was like, "I'm ready to dance when you are." And it was just like, and she was like, "You're the most girl with a dragon tattoo person I've ever met." And then she walked away and I go, "She's going to dye my hair black and bleach my eyebrows." I'm like, that's going to be my look for this tour. The next day they come over, they're like, "Would you bleach your eyebrows for the tour?" And I'm like, "And let me guess, dye my hair black?" And they were like, "Yeah, that's what she saw for you." I'm like, "Yeah, I knew this was coming. I'll do it."
Getting back into
But
the game.
yeah, and I just like just head in the game. I think that's like so important for me is to not get caught up in like who it's for, you know? Like it's not me dancing for Lady Gaga. I'm like I'm dancing and that's what my dream was. My dream was to dance. It wasn't to dance for someone. It's just want to move my body and make people excited about make people feel something.
Yeah.
Whether it's joy, whether it's sadness, I like love to entertain people.
I think as long as your intent, and I had a artist on recently, and we're talking about the impact of the work. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the comedy slash kind of actor field, but like not really though, but like a little bit. Mostly in the comedy field, but eventually it's going to go into acting. And how your material is received and how that's I think that's early on. That's what cripples people. Because if you're not liked initially, then you almost think what you're doing is invaluable because
Yeah.
people don't like it. But it may not, they just may not feel you yet. And that may not just be the right audience for you. It also may be that you're not very good. So they don't like it
Yeah.
because they respect good. If I've seen amazing dancers and you're like a noob, I'm like, they've messed that move up. If I just watch Bill Burr do comedy and some guy's like, "Hey, what's the deal with airline food?" I'm like, "Oh, that was a rough one." Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna appreciate you because I just saw a legend do it. But at a certain point, you do what you do as well as you can, and then the results come as they come. And
Yep.
as long as you're putting the right work and right energy forward, then you can live with all of that because you
And
did it the right way.
every great person, anybody that anybody looks up to in anything in any way has had their first day.
Yeah.
They've all had their first day and everyone forgets it. And people fear the hard work. They feel the duration of the hard work. They fear how far away dreams seem, how impossible they seem. I'm like, the person that you admire had their first day. It and as like unless it's a physically tasking job,
Yeah.
like if you're with it and like your brain is there, I'm like, it's never too late to start something new. Like you can fucking do it. And like I listened to this podcast and this girl, she literally was like talking about this woman she was interviewing, and she's like, "Oh, what did you want to do?" And this girl's like, "Oh, well, I wanted to get my bachelor's in what something." And she's like, "But I'd be 45 by the time I was done." And the girl with the leader of the podcast, or the writer of the podcast, goes, "I hate to break it to you, but you're going to be 45 regardless.
Mm.
And you're either going to be 45 with that, or you're going to be 45 without that."
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my God. Because sometimes, to be honest, like sometimes I'm such a dreamer. Like I have so many dreams and I get overwhelmed by them. And I get so overwhelmed by all the things that I want to do that I don't take any first steps for those things because I'm so overwhelmed. Not because I lack the drive, the motivation, but because I'm like, I don't even know which one I want to do first.
Right.
So I just spend the day like looking at all the things that I could do, and then I don't actually do anything. And I'm like, I need to stop doing that because I have time to do them all. And I can do them all, and I need to just take one at a time and make my checklist
Yeah.
of all the things I want to do. But I think it's really important. I tell all of my kids whenever they're like, I don't know how to do ballroom and I want to do ballroom. I'm like, well, first step in learning ballroom is to take ballroom.
Yeah.
That's it. That's where it starts. My boyfriend does handstands. He's an insane handstand guy. He does like insane calisthenics. And everybody asks him, like, how do you get good at handstands? He's like, you do handstands.
Yeah.
That's how you get good. You fall a million times.
It's
But
amazing how simple things are. Like, so I get into this social media discussion with people all the time about, I can't believe the world is X, Y, and Z. This is a common conversation, especially last year being as political as it was, COVID stuff, everything else that happened, people dying. I can't
yeah,
believe the world is X, Y, and Z.
yeah,
And I always tell people, I don't think most things matter remotely as much as we think they do. I really think it's mostly the outlets trying to sell us on sensationalism because they get paid for views. And
yeah,
it's people, catastrophizing something that happened or trying to plan tragedies forward. Like, if this keeps going for the next 4 weeks, then this is going to happen. It's like, yeah, but what's happening right now? Let's live in the moment. What's happening today?
and
Most of the
also,
stuff,
what
yeah,
if it does?
that's the thing. You don't know what it's going to be. You're assuming it's going to be this way. It's going to be this tragedy. And now you're being worked up about a future tragedy that's not happening currently. So now your
Yeah,
current reality is negatively affected by what you think is going to come down the line. But if you
yep,
really think about it, most things are pretty straightforward. Like, as much as the golden rule, you talked about cheesy sayings earlier, the golden rule still holds true. Treat people like you want to be treated. That's not complicated. If you want to learn a new craft, there's unlimited resources to do that. If I want, like, I'm not a good singer, that's not my gift, whatever. But if I wanted to train my voice, there's voice coaches, videos,
yeah,
tutorials. I can train my voice to be better than it is if I decide that's what I want. If I want to learn the piano, you can do that. It may be slow. You may have to learn
yeah,
what the keys are, like how what's the fingering pattern, what have you. But you can do anything you want to do within reason. You can. I don't know if you can
yeah,
go to Mars, but you can do anything you want to do within reason. But it's all a series of steps, and it's about being consistent in those steps. And if you do
yeah,
that, you will always get better at whatever the craft is. You may never be a classically trained Juilliard pianist, but you can play minuet
yeah.
without looking at the sheet music and be like, oh, I can do this. And that's still you playing the piano. So small steps daily, continuously, that's how you get better at stuff.
Say it, preach it.
I'm listen. I'm out here dropping. I'm giving myself snaps. You didn't give me any. That's cool. I'm big myself up since you didn't want to give me no love. I gave you all types of snaps. You was like, I'm slow. I'm like, I'm over here dropping nuggets. And you're like, that's good. It's good.
That's good. Letting it in.
It's good work you just did. It's like, big me up. But anywho, we're gonna start winding down. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you want to leave as far as parting wisdoms, knowledge, or if you have one more cool little story for the people that we can enjoy?
One more cool little story. I'll tell my most embarrassing dance story so it ends on a funny note.
Mm. All
Because
right,
it's
that's
a
good.
so I'm in Guadalajara, Mexico, and we are doing a outside stadium show. So there is 80,000 people.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's not as like a huge field. It's insane, and it starts to rain, and she is like, no matter what, Mama goes on. Unless she's sick, Mama goes on. Sometimes we're late, show still goes on. It's pouring rain. She's like, oh, we're going. We're like, uh-huh, yeah, we are. So we're on the stage, and I'm on the far right of this line.
Okay.
And we have an eight count to get to a new formation. And in the new formation, there's three little stairs, and we kind of all stack around her. I'm at the bottom. So I have to go from the far right. I travel the farthest
Oh
to
yeah.
get all the way in front. We are barefoot and it is pouring rain, and the stage is so slippery. And when you watch the video from before, you see like no one's really moving their feet when we're dancing, even before. Now I'm supposed to travel super fast in this rain. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I like start to, and I'm like, I have to get in front of her. So I'm not even just like, it's not even the dancers holding back. It's like me beating her. And she has a real short distance to go. So I'm like, okay. So I start walking. Next thing I know, I slip on the first step. My body goes parallel, like flies,
Oh, you like
flies.
hyperplane almost.
Oh, yeah. hmm
Yeah.
Then my back hits the second stair and my head hits the stage, like, yeah. Then yeah,
Okay.
I stand up and I'm like, duh, and I have a little like mini, like, whoa slip.
Yeah.
And then I the one. So I'm like, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Like, it happened so fast. I was like, I mean, my whole everything was like, what's going on? 80,000 people. We have to like finish this dance. And then it was the first time we were going to do a new number. So I finished this dance. We're at the end of the runway. I'm in the middle of a crowd. I'm seeing actual stars. And then I have to do a dance we've never done live before. And I literally like can remember looking at our dance captain and him looking like he's in slow motion, like, are you okay? And I'm like, we go off stage, and like, I mean, the whole team who like somebody had seen it. So like paramedics are like coming over, and they take me to the hospital in Guadalajara. They need to they need x-rays, whatever, because I'm obviously now I slipped on their stage, like it's their liability.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And I don't know any Spanish at all.
Mm. You gotta watch
Uh,
Dora the Explorer. Get you a couple words.
yeah. And like I can't even think what's the word for shoes?
Zapato.
Zapatos. Okay. So
Nice.
I knew zapatos at the time. So I'm in the hospital and they're doing all these x-rays. And I remember like everybody speaking Spanish. We had a translator, and all I knew was shoes. And I'm like fully drugged up. And the whole time, like, what's she saying? What's she saying? And then I was barefoot for my x-rays or whatever. And then I was like, Donde zapatos? Don't like that's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not making any sense. And the girl comes over and she spoke English. The girl who I thought didn't speak English. She's like, ma'am, I speak English. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was like, it's the only word I know. That's it. That's it. And so I had a major concussion. My whole back was like black from being bruised. It was honestly insane. But there was a oh my god, an Instagram page that came out like a few years ago. And it was called Booked and Blessed, and it was like to this day like no one knows who was like running it, and it would just rip on like really funny things that happened, or like classes that happened, being like, who the fuck is in this class, whatever. And then one time they put my video up of me falling, and the convention that I had won nationals for when I was younger was called The Pulse, and the caption was, when the pulse doesn't teach you how to dance in the rain.
Ooh, that's a good cat.
And it was a good caption. There's a touche. They killed it.
Yeah.
but all the responses, like hundreds and hundreds of responses, was like, that recovery was amazing. She killed it. What a professional. I can't believe she's alive. Like all these things, they were all so nice. So at first, like my ex was like, "Hey, you're on Booked and Blessed." I was like, "Shut up." And he's like, because he was like the page you didn't want to be on.
Right.
And on it. And then I was like, but these comments, he's like, these are the nicest comments. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm so happy that my community sees me like this. But anyway, I ate it in front of 80,000 people and then had to keep dancing and I don't remember anything.
Listen, the show went on. I think that's the most Sloan story you could tell.
Yeah.
Even when I was disoriented, and I've been concussed before. I know what it's like to have a concussion from football stuff, and you are out.
I was like,
You are like,
yeah,
like you are out of it.
tomatoes
Yeah,
for hours.
seeing stars, like the light is hitting you differently. You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
For you to do that and to finish the number,
Boss moves.
that's a boss move. Oh, sorry, going back to the snaps. My bad. My bad.
I just feel like it's got to keep a theme.
I mean, but let's be fair. I also applauded you earlier, though.
Okay, well then this is for you.
I think it's about time. I really feel like I deserve this one. I didn't.
Ooh, Chris.
Okay, that's enough. So, I haven't ended up on that site, but I think I may end up there at some point. There was one play in football that if they ever find a footage of it, is me getting laid out and me just being on the ground like in the fetal position, and I was just like, like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you I cried. I didn't cry. I did think real hard about crying though.
Yeah, you made it.
It was like
Out.
I was like, this hurts so much. It hurts so much. And I tried to walk off the field like triumphantly, like my chest up. I was bent. I look like a number 7. I walked off bent so hard to the side. It hurt. I got hit legit and like so pads for football basically cover your sternum and up. But there's a little space between your sternum and like your hip bone. There's maybe like 6 inches or whatever. And I got hit there.
No.
Full power, blindsided. No. So I'm running and I didn't see the person. It just jumped into my side and it hit and it was just, it knocked me off my feet. It was all the area that was not protected. And I was just like, it hurt so much. And when it happened, I heard the crowd say, oh, because again, when you see someone get blindsided, they do the little whiplash kind of thing. And oh my God, it was so bad.
Have you ever seen the YouTube clip of the grape lady?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't breathe.
The funniest part of that video is the anchors being like, oh,
I hope it's okay.
Wow. They were so phony in that moment. Wow. Hope she's okay. Tune in at 7 for more news. So that lady almost died in that. Anyway, that's a good way to end this because we talk about this random grape lady, your story, my story. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Unapologetically.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sloan, for being on. We can chat in a second. We're going to just stop the recording. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been amazing. Happy to have you on. Again, every Wednesday, we're giving you pods. That's how we're doing it. Check us out next week, and we'll see you next time. Deuces.